Welcome back to Amateurs Podcast. It's officially draft season with it being a few days away, so we are doing our big board for the first round. We each ranked our top 30 prospects, and we're going to go through them, discuss each prospect, see if we agree with each other's takes or disagree. And you got anything to add before we get into it?
Again, this is based just strictly on value. This is not...
This isn't a mock draft.
No.
It's a big board. This is our top 30 ranking. So, without further ado.
Yeah, and we're still coming off last year where I had Tristan da Silva
He had him at 5.
at 5. Had a good year, but again, the problem we worried about, Orlando had a glut of players in his size and capability range. But
All right, number 1, I have Carter Bryant.
yeah, we're going to agree to disagree.
Yeah, number 1, we both have Flag, right?
Enough said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's exactly generational, but he's probably the best college prospect since Zion, maybe even, that's debate. He's a very good player. Clear cut number 1. We don't really got to go in.
No, we've discussed him at length. I think he is as close to a generational talent as as you can get. But okay, we'll see.
Yep. Number 2, I have Harper.
As do I.
Yeah. I think, obviously the flaw in his game is the shooting, but I think his size as a point guard, he's a big guard, compensates for that because it helps him get downhill. And he was so good at getting downhill this past college season.
Yeah, I think with Harper, I think the shot is a little inconsistent. He needs to round out his passing and his defense, but he has really good size, and he's a clear cut.
Yeah,
There's a clear cut 1, and there's a clear cut 2, and then now we can.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a lot of issues with my top 5. I think we'll disagree with 3. 3, I have Kaman Maluach.
Okay, I have him in my top 5. You want to talk about?
Well, I think Maluach has become a little underrated since his performance in the Final Four game against Houston, which was a awful performance for a projected top 5 pick. But I think his ability to be as big as he is, he's 7'2", his ability to project as a potential DPOY winner, that could be his peak. And I think he's a smart player. I'm not going to say he's going to be a playmaking hub in the league, but I think he can make the right reads. I think he can develop an offensive game enough. Right now, he's really just a lob threat, but I think his defense really sells me, and you can't teach how big he is. And He just started playing basketball a few years ago, and he already has a good, intelligent feel for the game, and I just thought he really impressed me this past season at Duke.
This is a perfect example of a high floor, high ceiling type of guy, because we don't know what his ceiling is.
But I think if a DPOY is... and most people agree he could have a DPOY potential. I think, that's a high ceiling.
Right. Well, it's a high floor. He's already an elite defender.
Yeah.
I was, I think I kind of overrated him. Most guys have him at 7. I have him at 5, but I can't argue. I think he's a premier talent. I do want to push back though on some of the draft experts who say he shows the clues, the signs of potentially having a long distance game.
No, not.
Let's stop.
Yeah. So who's your 3?
My 3 is Bailey. I do not understand at all his draft strategy.
His camp pushing the on-ball superstar when he had a game this season where I think he had 37 points on 11 dribbles, right? Which shows he can be an off-ball phenomenal player. I don't know why his camp is so obsessed with him being this on-ball dribble superstar, pushing that narrative about him. When we see it, he's a great cutter. He's great at catch and shoot. He's athletic.
Yep.
The big flaw in his game is his decision making and his handle. So why are we pushing this on-ball narrative?
I have him as a combination. As a scorer, I think he's already got more than a clue. He is an elite scorer.
Shot maker.
He's a shot maker. I compare him to Kevin Durant and now DeMar Rosen. He doesn't have DeRozan's athleticism, but he has a mid-range game that is really elite.
The issue with the Kevin Durant comparison is you just doomed him to be a bust. When's the last time we compared someone to KD?
When you're pushing to go to Charlotte or Washington because you want to be the guy,
He wants to get a max extension in 3 years
Okay.
so he can bless his agent.
I mean,
And it has not gone unnoticed that his agent is Omar Cooper, father of Sharif Cooper, who
Where's-
kind of
where's Sharif now?
China. He screwed up his son's career, but whatever. 4th overall, I have VJ Edgecombe.
I have Trey Johnson.
Oh wow, okay.
Um,
With VJ, I think most likely what is going to happen is he's going to go to Philadelphia, and I think VJ has a lot of potential. But my fear for this, and it's almost irrational. Do you remember Zaire Smith, who Philly traded Mikal Bridges for out of Texas Tech?
yes.
Super athletic guard. They don't even play similar. I just fear that could happen to him if he goes to Philly at 3. That's one of the worst draft trades in recent memory. But I think VJ is a lot of potential, and he was clear-cut 4 for me.
Yeah, I have him at 6. He's obviously an explosive athlete. He profiles to me as a bigger John Morant.
Yeah,
He has that type of athleticism,
100%.
speed and bounce. His handles still need a little work. His shot obviously is not there yet. He had an interesting year at Baylor because he wasn't an immediate superstar.
Yeah.
It took him some time to find his place. Really starting with that Atlanta tournament when he played in front of his home folks. I like him. I agree. The fit in Philadelphia is
Not great with their backcourt.
yeah.
Who you said Trey? Let's talk about Trey.
Johnson. So he's just a tremendous shooter.
Yeah, he's definitely tied with Bailey, I think, for the best shot maker in this class.
Yeah.
He's probably the best on-ball jump shooter. I mean, maybe Clayton. But those two, I think, are in a league of their own in on-ball movement shooting.
Yeah, he has an elite skill that's very hard to find in some places. He excelled at a SEC school SEC school. It's hard to keep track of what conferences, but he just was good from day one. And yeah, he's not a complete player, but I think he's a guy who can come immediately into the league, average, high teens.
Yeah.
And for a team that needs scoring punch, he's ready-made for a Washington.
Yeah.
He's ready-made to take the Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson role in Utah. So he'll be in a good spot. Again, I could move a couple guys around, but yeah.
Yeah. 5, I got Bailey, and you said you had. Come on. We talked about that. 6. So 6, I guess 6 through 20 for me was really tough. This draft is very confusing for me because I'll look at a guy at 14 and be like, oh, he's better than the guy at 8. But 6, I had Trey Johnson.
Yep.
Shot making, like we said. Who'd you have at 6? VJ. Okay, so 7, I had Colin Knippel.
As did I. Yep.
I've seen a lot of people talk about him being 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And for me, I've always had an issue with the lack of athleticism in a prospect. He plays the game the right way. I have no doubt that he'll be a good NBA player because of how solid the game he plays is. But I think the lack of burst, vertical, and just quickness, it holds me back. He was not bad as a defender this year at Duke, surprisingly, but the athleticism holds me back.
Yeah, I think he's the best shooter in the draft outside of maybe Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And I think he had a slightly more diversified offensive game.
Oh, no, he can play make.
Yeah, that I don't think people gave him enough credit. They just said, oh, he's a shooter.
No, he can definitely play make.
Yes, he's not the best athlete, but he's, good size, 6'6". You can...
Yeah, he's big.
You don't really have to hide him, but you don't want him obviously guarding,
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm at 7th in the mock
Yeah.
or big board, I guess. So it's
and I guess the question here is, would you take if Luke Kennard was in this draft? Where would you draft Luke Kennard?
Yeah. And I think he's a better playmaker than Kennard, to be honest.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
All right, so 8, I had Jeremiah Fierce.
As did I.
Oh, okay. Obviously the main issue is a lot of people talking about his turnover rate. And I think high turnovers as a young guard, especially as young as he is, considering he's supposed to be graduating high school, isn't as much of an issue for me because, I mean, A, it means he's experimenting, and B, it's a characteristic that most young guards have. And obviously, I don't think he's going to come into this league and start as a point guard in day one, especially with how the hit rate on young guards is through their first few years. But I think he can turn into a really good player. His athletic burst is there. He's shown a knack for shot making, for getting to the free throw line especially. His shooting numbers were whatever this year at Oklahoma, but he took that team. They won their first, I think, 13 games. He was clear-cut their best player, SEC tournament team. He gets downhill really well, really crafty handle. I like his game a lot.
I do too. Obviously, he's 8. His size, is less than elite.
Ideal, yeah.
He does have that poor assist to turnover ratio, and his shot's going to have to be developed a little more. I confess, I probably saw less of Fierce, and excepting the international players, I probably saw less of Fierce than any other main prospect.
I actually saw a good amount of him. I saw him play in person this year against Florida, and he had over 20 points, got to the line really well, and I obviously watched him play a lot more in the non-con, particularly that game against Michigan, where he hit the crazy game winner in overtime, and that just really impressed me. I followed him throughout the year, and the turnovers, but like I said, he's a young guard. 9, I have KJ, Kasparis Yakisionis from Illinois.
I do too.
Yep. So last 3 we've had in a row. This is a guy who kind of fell off towards the latter part of the season. Obviously, the turnovers are a key issue, and people question his athleticism if it will translate. But I think his size and his Euro game, like the way he plays, compensates for that. And I think my pro comp would be a Josh Giddey. I think he's a really good playmaker, and there's the questions about his stats and his performances against upper tier teams. He dominated against lower tier, and once he got higher tiers, more inconsistency. But I'm a fan of him. I think he had a decent body of work, both in pro ball and this season of Illinois. A good amount of film to put him top 10.
Yeah, he's kind of the sweet spot here where I start to question my judgment and question whether these guys are, are as good as I think they are. He did have really good stretches early in the year. Okay shot. I think he shot 32% from 3. Good passer, rebounds well, has decent size. My question is, if Tyler Kolek isn't getting run.
Tyler Kolek isn't 6'6", though, and he isn't a freshman, though.
But he's
you're talking about like
in
running
the NBA.
Well, he's also backing up Jalen Brunson and Deuce McBride. It all depends about fit, where he's going to play. I mean, that's why I like the Josh Giddey comparison, because Josh Giddey came onto a trash OKC team. Obviously, he's not part of the championship, but he was able to showcase his playmaking day one.
Yeah, I mean, Giddey's also a little taller.
But Yakisionis,
he's 6'6".
Yeah, I mean, Giddey's 6'8".
He's got a solid size. Very smart player, and I do like his competitiveness. He was always competing, and there were games where he wasn't the main focus of the offense, and he filled in the gaps. But he's got questions.
All right, 10, I have Nick Clifford out of Colorado State.
Okay, I have him at 13. I have Derek Queen.
Okay. I mean, with Clifford, I love his all-around game. The shooting is obviously a question. He shot really well this past year at Colorado State, but his first 4 years of college basketball, not so much. But I think he's one of those all-around players. Best case scenario for him, in my eyes, is a Jalen Williams. I think he's a do-it-all, really versatile. Obviously, I think more likely is maybe a Jaime Jaquez, who contributes from day one at the 3 spot. But I really like his game.
Like him a lot. And actually, he shot 39% his last 2 years of college. So I think he's established that track record. He wasn't good as early.
At Colorado.
He obviously worked on it. It must be the altitude or something. Going from Colorado to Colorado State. Yeah, I like him. I like him. Obviously, he's at 13. I had Derek Queen at 10 because I think he has a defined role and a defined skill. He's the best post player.
He's got so much wiggle to his game. He's like elusive. He's quick for someone with his size. Like really, he does in that mid post when he faces up, he blows by the opposing big man guarding him.
Yeah.
Really good score. Obviously, the question mark is the shooting. He took threes this year, converted at a non-existent rate.
Right.
But we saw some clutch shot making ability. I really like his game too. I do think he needs to work on his defense.
Yeah, and he doesn't have ideal size. He's a little
undersized for the 5, but I think his athleticism, like how fast he is, can help him. But yeah, no, his defense is really a concern for me.
It is, but he's a guy, like I said, you know what he's going to give you, right? He's going to give you defined points in the paint and rebounds, not at maybe the highest clip, but at a decent clip.
Yeah.
Liked him a lot.
I have him at 11. So who'd you have at 11?
At 11, I have, and this is probably the surprise here, is Maxime Reynaud.
Okay, yeah, he's on my list, but that's pretty high.
Yep.
Obviously, an incredible season this past year at Stanford. He's huge. I think he had above 7-foot barefoot measurement.
Yep.
He can stretch the floor. Athletically, no, but he's huge.
Yeah, and the only question I have on him is switchability.
Yeah.
It's the same question we had about Zach Edey last year.
Yeah.
Reynaud's obviously not Edey size, but he's
much better shooter.
Much better shooter. He shot 35% from 3, improved steadily, and not in a Power 5 conference, although the ACC was trashed this year. But still, and to average 20 and 11, and a very solid defender. Has a clue. He's not in Malawach's, league, but he's still solid.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit higher than I would have him, but I think he's a first-round talent all day. 12, I have Thomas Sorber.
I have Neek.
Okay, Sorber, obviously the injury, I think, has made him an underrated quantity at this point, having missed the last few games of the season. But I think his potential as a playmaking hub, because he's a really sound, smart passer. He has a nice little mid-post free throw line down game. He's got super long arms, 7'6" wingspan. I think he's a super underrated prospect. That's lottery talent all day.
Yeah, I was a big Thomas Sorber fan until I checked myself. I have him at 22, and I compare him very closely with 23. I struggled, but I'll get into that later. Yes, he is a good passer. He's an average rebounder. Has an immense wingspan, 7'6" wingspan, but he's also 6'9". Hasn't played well, and this was the difference for me, against quality centers. Struggled against, and there aren't many in the Big East, but he did struggle. So
against Kalkbrenner, the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
come on.
I mean, but okay, Kalkbrenner's probably not going to get a first round look, but Sorber, I think, has a pretty high ceiling, and he shot some abysmal percentage from 3, not Derek Queen-esque, but not much better. I like his shot. It doesn't look broken, but I just couldn't rationalize putting him there.
13, I have Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida. What do you got?
I have Nolan Traore.
Okay, so with Clayton, like I said, with Trey Johnson, probably one of the best on-ball movement shooters in the draft. We saw what he did, with Florida winning the national championship this year. Extremely clutch, underrated athlete. I mean, obviously being a Florida student, I watched every single game he played the past 2 years. And for people, his size, 6'3" shooting guard, even though he ran the 1 this past season for Florida, He's not a pure point guard, but I think people are overlooking his athleticism just because he was mainly perimeter oriented. But he boomed on some guys this year, like flat out. He definitely has above a 35-inch vertical. Was a high major football player in high school.
Yeah.
So I think people questioning that, his physicality, his athleticism, super underlooked.
Yeah,
Or overlooked, I'm sorry.
I have him a little lower. I called it a touch below elite athleticism. So I'm
Yeah.
acknowledging he's a very good athlete. Obviously, any NBA player is a
Yeah, I just think people are selling him as shooter only.
Yeah,
And that's just not the case.
He's got decent burst and sufficient bounce. I called him the ultimate closer during the tournament run because no one closed like that. I compare him, they're not the same player, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
They play very differently. I compare him to Jamal Shed because they both had such competitive drive.
And so level-headed and mature.
Yeah.
They level the whole time, never too high, never too low. I mean, I don't even know if the guy smiled after he won a national championship. Like, he's just so locked in. I 100% understand that comparison.
Yeah, and I think the shame here is he's not going to get drafted where you or I have him. He's probably a late round selection.
I mean, yeah, I love the fit to Orlando before they got Bane because he fit them perfectly.
Yeah.
But the Bane trade kind of takes that away. But I think, like we said earlier, outside of the top two, we don't know where anybody's going.
No.
But so who'd you have again? You said
Traore.
Traore,
Yes. 6'5" French guard's been on the radar for a while. He's like a
struggled this past season, first season of pure pro ball. But I think he has super high potential.
Yeah, he's a good athlete, not a great athlete. Watched film on him.
Playmaker.
Playmaker.
Good passer.
passer. High assist to turnover.
Yeah.
I think it was the best in the bunch. When you compare him to the other point guards like Saraf or Demeen, he's a better shooter, which isn't saying much.
Yeah, his shooting splits. But I think if I watched a breakdown on, I think if he played college basketball this past year, his stock would be much higher.
Yeah.
It's because I think being in the pro league, he took more threes than his game he didn't have a defined role in his first year. I think if he would have went to a college program and he's taking, 3 threes a game as the one running the show, I think we see him a little bit higher.
Yeah, what I saw on the tape is when he has his feet set, and granted that's not always
A given.
when he has his feet set, it's got a good arc, good rotation. I think the shot is there. He went from 25% last year up to 30%.
Marginal, yeah.
Marginal improvement. The thing it's hard to do when you look at some of these international players is if we call them a great athlete, you have to compare them to the athletes they're playing against.
No, I think he's good, not
I think
great.
he's good. So I want to see, can he still get to the rim against NBA talent?
All right, 14, I have Rasheer Fleming out of St. Joe's.
Okay.
Who you got?
At 14, I have Jace Richardson.
Okay, with Fleming, I've seen a lot of guys enthralled with his ability to be a stretch four. He dunks the ball, he shoots the ball, he's got great NBA positional size. He's prototypical in that regard.
Yeah.
My concern with him, obviously the A10 competition, and he was the third leading scorer on a St. Joe's team that didn't make the tournament.
Yeah.
That was not that good. Granted, he was behind 2 elite scores, conference-wise, but the 14 a game. But I do like his how he projects. I think he could be a really good pro.
Yeah, I also worried about the St. Joe's production. His numbers are good.
Yeah, his numbers were good, but I'm just saying, like, he should be the best player on that team statistically.
Yeah.
And I know he was one of the only players in the country to make a certain amount of threes and a certain amount of dunks, a certain amount of blocks.
Yeah.
He was very versatile, and that's why I think he projects well as a stretch four. And he's athletic, and there's just questions there, and that's why I have him as my last pick in the lottery. With Jace, my concern, obviously, like everyone's, the size. He'd be the smallest shooting guard in the league since Allen Iverson.
Yeah. I understand that. We had a discussion earlier. I think he did play some point at Columbus High School alongside Caden Boozer. There were times when Caden would go to the wing, or when he was out of the game, Jace would run the team.
Yeah, I mean, I like we said earlier, I disagree with that take. I think he's a shooting guard, but I think the refined role at Michigan State kind of showed that.
Yeah, I thought Izzo. I mean, he's got one of the lowest usage and minutes rates for a near lottery.
That's what I'm saying. I don't
player.
think he's an on-ball. He's the great slasher, but I think at his size, I don't know how well that slashing ability translates to the NBA.
Yeah.
And athletically, his pops is Jason Richardson. When I'm not worried about his burst vertically or quickness, but his brother's 6'6". What happened?
Yeah, it's a shame. He was the only guy on that Michigan State team who could shoot, and it seemed like Izzo wouldn't let him shoot.
Yeah.
He shot 3 a game, shot 41% from 3. You think, okay, production isn't meeting the eye test here. Maxime Renaud averaged over 5 shots a game on worse percentage. Again, we're at the point in the draft where these guys have serious questions.
Yeah. There's no perfect players there right now.
No.
15, I got Traore, who we talked about. Who you got?
I got Liam McNeely.
Oh, wow. I am not a fan of McNeely. I know he'll probably go first round. I don't have him in my big board. I think his perception as a shooter, because I think, what are you labeling him as?
Well, make your point.
I don't, he's not a good shooter. His 2 years in EYBL, he shot 36%. In high school, in EYBL. And this past season at UConn, he shot 32%.
Right.
So he's a 6'7" white dude who athletically is not top of the class and shooting-wise isn't there.
I think he's a slightly better athlete than you're giving him credit for.
Okay, but he has a 0 wingspan, 6'7", 6'7".
Yeah. And he's not a defender. He's not a guy who's going to go out there and impress you with back scratchers on the contested back scratcher. But I think having watched him in high school, not EYBL, in high school, he was very proficient when it was a catch and shoot situation.
Yeah, he's a complimentary scorer.
And I don't think, here's the problem, I don't think Connecticut had the type of point guard this year who was a driving kick guy who was getting him easy looks.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been that team's best player.
Shouldn't have. No.
No, I agree.
But
yeah.
He was, and that's, hey, that's not a bad thing. Again, yeah, he's got issues. He's got some athletic limitations. If he can't shoot, he's going to have a very short career.
Well, granted, I think he's a better shooter than 32%.
Yeah.
But when I looked at his EYBL numbers, I was surprised, to say the least. 16, I have Asa Noel from Georgia. This is a kid that I'm really confused about.
Yep.
He's very smart in picking his spots. He's great at finding the dunker spot. He was top of the country in dunks, but he also doesn't do much outside of that.
Yeah.
But his numbers don't lie either.
Yeah, I think he's a guy I compare him to is a Malik Renaud, formerly Indiana, and
yeah, Malik has way more boogie to his game though. Like I didn't see Asa Noel do anything off the bounce or in the
very dominant low post player.
Yeah, but he wasn't dominant in terms of I'm gonna take this matchup. He was dominant I think he just picked his spots super well and he ran the floor super well.
He ran the floor well. I think he was better defensively than you're going to give him credit for. But yeah, he's got issues, but he's a 6'9" guy who has decent feet, could be a switchable 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Who'd you have?
I had Walter Clayton.
Okay. 17, I have Jace Richardson.
Yep.
Who you got?
Noah Asengi.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this guy has not been playing well in the playoffs.
No, he has.
No. His last game was awful.
No, but before that,
his last 2 games were actually horrible.
He had played well for Ulm.
Yeah, his last 2 games, he actually matched up against Ben Saraf. Saraf had 20, he had 3. He's a lot more of a ball handler than I had thought of. He's more puts the ball on the ground more than I thought. He's big. I think he had a 6'10" or 11 measurement, which is impressive. But I think he's one of these guys where it's like he's young in the EuroLeague. That's why we're taking him. Not that his stats jump off the paper or he's, you know what I mean?
Sure, but I trust me. A lot of people have him
Way high.
high lottery.
Yeah.
I don't think he's there. He's not a shooter. He's not a creator. Really not much of a scorer. Defensively,
Oh, yeah.
his footwork is fantastic. He doesn't jump. He only jumps on the actual necessary contest. Not a great shot blocker. He's like 0.6 a game, something like that. But has a clue and is very switchable. He can guard 1 through 4.
Yeah, he's a lot more mobile for his size than I
Yeah.
thought. That's what I was kind of trying to get at there.
I think you project him as a guy.
A Ryan Dunn.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say probably Jaden McDaniels, but
Yeah.
just because he's tall enough and he can switch and doesn't his footwork and his hips are great. They really they jumped off the page. Nothing else about his game did.
All right. So 18, another guy I have questions with, Carter Bryant. He reminds me a lot coming out of college of Peyton Watson. But I think obviously he did a little bit more than Watson at UCLA. He's a guy athletically is there. The skill could be there. He didn't have a big usage rate at all at Arizona. I struggle to have a guy ranked this high who averaged 6 points a game in college.
7
7 points a game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't love having him at 18 on my big board.
Yeah, I have him lower. I also compared him to Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson was 3-3.
Yeah.
3 points, 3 rebounds. Bryant isn't exceptionally tall. He's 6'6"-ish. Compares very interestingly with another guy we're going to get to and hopefully a couple picks. Yes, he shot 37%, which I actually had to double check, but on extremely low volume.
Yeah.
When it's not Kentucky, right? It's not the old Kentucky team where they could roll out.
Just why
10
is this
guys,
guy why is he not,
10 minutes a game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
All right, 19. Who you got at 18?
I have Igor Demine, and I really can't tell you why.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Demine is against the low major competition, he was a freaking stud. And he actually did have a good end to the season. He was an integral part of that Big 12 title game run and then a decent run in the tournament for BYU. And I think, obviously, the size jumps off the paper, the highlights from a playmaking perspective, but the lack of shooting
27%.
Is a huge question.
Wasn't good from the free throw line either.
There's question marks about turnovers, his size. He's skinny. He's 6'9", obviously, but he's real skinny. There's question marks there. But I do think people have gotten a little too much on the Igor Demine hate train. Definitely not as his stock way lower than it was coming into the season. But people are hating on him. Like insane on NBA Twitter.
Yeah, but most draft experts have him going lottery.
Yeah, I just meant from the social media perspective.
Okay. But he is the one thing. He does have an elite skill. He's a very good passer.
Yeah.
Probably the best passer in the draft.
Yeah, some of the passes he made this year, just from a highlights perspective, really jump off the screen.
But, you have the same concerns you have with KJ.
But even more magnified.
But magnified because he's a worse shooter.
Yeah, 100%. 19, I have Colin Moreau-Boyles.
Now, that's the guy I was going to talk about. We're only off by 1 here. But...
Yeah, with him, I hate on him a lot. But I think at this spot is fine. He's a 6'7", 6'8", 5", essentially, with a non-existent jump shot. I think people are talking about, it projects, or he could turn into a shooter. No. In order to turn into a shooter, you first have to start taking the shots, and then you have to start semi-making the shots, and then you have to start making the shots. He's at the base floor right now. He doesn't take them. And he's so undersized for his position. However, the playmaking is there. He's got good wiggle. And for me, best case scenario, Draymond Green.
Okay. Wow.
And that's why I can see a path in my head to him being not a player of Draymond's caliber, but a similar player in terms of impact.
See, he's Carter Bryant. They're the same size. People are saying Carter Bryant projects as a 3-and-D guy. He doesn't. They're saying the same thing about Colin Murray-Boyles. But Colin Murray-Boyles actually produced in college.
Yeah, but he's a 5. He plays like a 5.
But he's 6'6". He's solidly built. And he's got a 7-foot wingspan.
No. Yeah, I mean, but that's not he's too much of a post player. He never caught the ball on the perimeter. And I mean, I think the reason he was so productive, I'm not going to take away from his scoring ability, but he's a little big. He was able to outmuscle a lot of these dudes, and I don't know if that's a positive or he needs to lose some of that weight.
We saw the last guy his size.
Kenny Lofton.
Yep.
Or David Roddy.
And that's what I have. The David Roddy conundrum is, where does he play?
Yes. And I will say, Murray-Boyles did it against the best competition as opposed to those guys. SEC was otherworldly this year.
Yep.
His team also was trash.
They were. I mean, there was nobody else on that team.
Yeah, no, that team was awful. They were.
Michi Johnson knew enough to beat Feet out of there.
Michi Johnson is coming back there now.
Yeah, well, because Murray-Boyles is going now.
Yeah. All right, so who you got?
So I have Will Riley.
Okay, yeah, we're flip flopped. I have the next two.
Yeah.
I think he's a microwave scorer off the bench in the league. Puts on more weight, and I think he's got that all day. Microwave scorer.
Yeah, he classed up.
Yeah, he's young.
He's young. Not the youngest. That's Cooper Flagg. Crazy enough, but he has upside. I know he shot only 33%.
No, but I think he can do 15 and 5 minutes all day.
Yeah.
We saw that multiple times. Shot gets more consistent, puts on weight.
Yep.
Couple years development, and he's going to be one of those guys where we look back, he should have been higher.
Yeah, his ceiling is really high.
His usage rate with the problem, he came off the bench.
Yeah.
He didn't have a high usage rate.
He averaged like 25 minutes a game.
But he wasn't. They had a lot of ball handlers and other guys. Yeah. But I think he's a guy that's at 20, good value. And that's where I have him. You had CMB at 20, so at 21 I have Maxime Renaud, who we talked about. Who you got at 20?
I have Danny Wolf.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a little ahead of me. He's, other than Ace Bailey, in my opinion, one of the more polarizing players in this draft, because it's like, I did this on an earlier podcast, he could be Şengün.
Yeah.
We see a player his size, playmaking ability, lack of foot speed in Houston. And he's even taller than Şengün. The question is, what team is going to let him do that?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of my favorite players. I told you to watch.
Yeah, the 7-foot pick and roll was insane. But there are some serious questions. I think there were a lot of mental lapses. He had a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, he did. I think his handle is not,
It's impressive for his size.
Exactly.
But the thing is, like, if you're going to be doing as much ball handling as it can't just be impressive for yourself. It has to be impressive.
Yeah. He's great on a curve. He's great on a 7-foot curve.
Yeah. But I also think another big question mark is the defense. Like I said, the lack of foot speed. He's going to get blown by.
Yeah.
He did, however, timing on his blocks.
Yeah, he's a better defender than I think.
I don't think on the perimeter as a point of attack, but I think at the rim that his timing is very solid. He had a couple games this year with I think 4 or 5 blocks.
And he's a good rebounder.
Yeah, he double.
Yeah, he's a guy that there were games he didn't dominate from a scoring perspective, but every other stat was stuffed.
Yeah, no, I think I wish he was still in college, man. I really like watching him play.
He's
and I think they have another guy similar to that coming through the system at Michigan, and Yaxel. Obviously not as tall. Obviously more downhill. Much better score.
Yeah.
And he's one of the guys. He almost had a quadruple double this year.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of versatility from the Michigan big men again.
He might have been drafted ahead.
Oh,
of
100% he would have. He should have stayed in the draft. He wanted that. But that maize and blue NIL. All right, number 22. Oh, you said you had
Sorber.
Yeah, so 22 I have Igor Demin, who we talked about, and we talked about Sorber. 23 I have Noah Senge. Who you got?
I had Asa.
Noah. Okay,
Yeah.
23. Well, all right. 24. Amari Williams out of Kentucky.
Oh.
I love how he projects as a defender. Obviously, he was a 3-time DPOY at Drexel, which is like, yeah, it's at Drexel. But when you saw him at Kentucky, he's not 1 through 5 switchability, but he's 2 through 5.
Yeah, he's got better feet than most.
He's so long. He's block percentage is there. And I think offensively, like people like he was not bad at Kentucky at all with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, no. I gotta disagree with you here. I think he's a walking foul. He's a Samson Johnson type.
Amari Williams.
Yes.
Drexel transfer.
Yes.
3-time DPOY at Drexel.
I was
Kentucky had atrocious defense this year outside of one person on the team.
Well, it's not hard when Kobe Bray is not playing defense.
I'm saying
defense.
outside of one, he was the only guy on that team who played defense.
And he's a terrible free throw shooter.
Bro, I'm not. I have him 24th. I'm not saying he's going to be a stud or average 20 points a game, but I think he has a clue offensively, and his defensive versatility has him. I'm taking a first-round flyer on.
All right, we'll save this piece of paper, and I'll eat it if he spends a significant amount of time in the NBA.
Okay, Matisse out.
No.
All right.
At 24, I had Carter Bryant.
All right. Take some risks, buddy. 25, I have Cedric Coward. Who I only included him because of how high everyone's mock draft is. Against top 100 D's defenses, and throughout his college career, I think he averaged 7 points a game. And obviously, he played only 7 games at Wazoo this year.
He's on my list because you made me take 30 because I stopped at 28.
Yeah. This guy wanted to do a 28 big board.
I got tired. My scouting report on Coward is
not enough film.
No, they had 6.
You know what that reminds me though is a lot of Neesmith, who played only 11 games at Vandy, who shot like 40% from high volume 3 in those 11 games and got himself drafted first round.
I guess if it was good enough for John Schotter.
Yeah, I mean he did commit to Duke. That would have been interesting to see.
Yeah.
So who you got at 25?
So at 25 I've got, and I don't like it. I think it's Joanne. It's not Joan. Behringer.
Yeah,
6'11" guy, 7-foot wingspan. He's already a decent size, weight-wise solid. He is a very good shot blocker now. So defensively, he has a clue, has good feet. He's not completely switchable, but he's solid. But if you're comparing him to an Alex Sarr, he's behind Alex Sarr at a similar age, and his offense is really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that much of him.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to comment here, but I don't have him in my first round. 26, I have Danny Wolf.
Right.
Who you got?
This is a reach, Janai Broom.
Yeah, I mean, the production doesn't lie.
Janai Broom, not elite size, 6'9".
Or athleticism.
Does have a 7-foot wingspan. And I think what people forget, we want to talk about Amari Williams. At Morehead State, he was a great defender. Averaged 4 blocks a game one year. I think Auburn has a better team defensive concept. They didn't rely on him as much. And he emerged out of nowhere into an elite scorer that his defense sort of
took a back seat. I don't hate that at all. I think especially at the end of the first round, you take a National Player of the Year.
Yeah.
No, I have no problem with that.
You did see him take a lot of threes, but he's not a great shooter.
He
He's
can make
very
one
streaky.
he can make one or two.
Yeah, he's streaky.
27. I have Yannick whatever YKN from Penn State.
Okay.
Who really shined at the combine, I believe.
Right.
Reminded me his athleticism a lot of Jackson Hayes.
Okay.
From at that size. Didn't know a lot about him actually going into the combine because how trash Penn State was this year, but it appears that he was one of two bright spots on that team. And I think, a guy young, that athleticism, that size, first round flyer.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. And this guy's just a complete mystery too, Ben Saraf, who I actually think played with Osengi, not against him.
No.
I thought he was on Ulm.
No.
Okay,
Not.
I could be
I
wrong.
think he's on Bayern Munich actually.
Saraf is a 6'6" Israeli. He's a point guard. He's a very good passer. Okay. You have a correction? We have a correction. Real time.
Ben Saraf is on the same team as Senge.
Yeah.
However, I was not wrong about the stats. He had 20 points.
Yeah.
Against Bayern Munich, that's what I meant.
He's already a very solid, true point guard, old school. Passes well, handles the ball fine, gives you points here and there. I compare him, I called him a poor man's Igor Demine.
That's not what you want to be. No. All right, 28. I don't think you're going to have this guy. Zion James.
Yeah, I don't.
Who do you have at 28?
Again, another guy just like Hugo Gonzalez.
See, at least I have guts. Zion.
I don't want to have him.
You don't like Zion James as a first rounder? Think about it.
I know he's got really good size and he's a good defender.
Playmaker.
Is he?
He ran the one this year for them.
No, Cooper Flag ran the one.
Okay, but come on now. I mean,
No.
Zion James, I think is a first round. I think he's a guy that we're gonna look back. He's gonna be a contributor. Let's see what he averaged assists wise. 3 assists a game.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever. That team was stacked.
He's a
First career, he averaged 3 assists a game.
yeah. He's a very solid guard.
He's a tank.
He's a
He's a tank.
good defender. But
I got you with a comp right now. Just pulled it out.
okay,
Lou Dort.
could be. Oh, could be. Sure. All right.
Lou Dort.
Fair.
Who you got? You said Hugo Gonzalez. I don't even want to talk about that dude, bro. Come on, man.
He doesn't get any time at Real Madrid, yet almost every first round draft pick projection has him in there somewhere.
I really
don't know why.
I really think NBA executives. I don't understand why we just love taking young EuroLeague guys that don't play. You know what I mean? And they say and NCAA guys are doing that too. Every team this season is going to have an international guy who isn't playing in the Euro or in their respect Adriatic League, Bundesliga, whatever, La Liga. They're not playing.
Yeah, at least Saraf and Asengi, they're playing.
Yeah.
But this guy, I kind of wanted to make a statement here that, look, who would I rather have, Hugo Gonzalez or Eric Dixon? I'd rather have Eric Dixon. Because Dixon has at least shown, hey, I have an outside shot.
So what's the statement you wanted to make here?
That they draft these guys that are complete mysteries. Yeah. Cedric Coward, who's my next on my list, is a complete mystery. He's played 6 games at this level. 6 games.
Oh, he
I mean, he played
Eastern Washington.
Eastern Washington.
But yeah, come on.
Okay.
All right, 29, I have the next Jalen Brunson. Mark Sears. Obviously, Jalen Brunson was I guess a tier above Sears in college. I mean, Sears was the SEC Player of the Year. I'm a fan of taking experienced, productive college guards. Always, I think they're the most overlooked archetype in the draft, and I think Sears' production in the last 3 years at Alabama cannot be just overlooked.
Who measured taller, him or Earl Boykins?
You act like Jalen Brunson is 6'1".
Yeah.
You act like he relies on his height. You got your boy Jace Richardson, who's 6 feet tall, and a lot
Please do not compare Jalen Brunson to anybody in this draft. I love Mark Sears as a college player, competitive as heck.
Are you telling me an SEC Player of the Year who plays similarly to Brunson, and they look similar too?
Who am I imitating?
Are you telling me Sears can't shoot?
No.
What are you saying?
I'm saying his mom.
Oh, well, Jalen Brunson's dad, he's a Nepo baby. Jalen Brunson's dad is literally on the coaching staff for the Knicks.
And he actually played in the NBA?
Oh, Rick Brunson played in the NBA. I didn't know 11 games.
He played in the NBA?
I'm going to pull up his stats.
All right, let's see that.
Rick Brunson career stats. 3.2 points per game.
Yeah.
Minutes, the highest, 13.5 minutes per game.
How many seasons?
How many teams?
It's just a lot of teams want you.
All right, who do you got?
Where?
At 29.
I told you, coward.
You're a coward. 30, I have John Tanji.
Okay.
Are
I fled.
You're for sure filming that?
Again, I didn't see him play much. I know his numbers were outstanding. I know the analytics love him. I was ready to go to war with the analysts about Colin Murray Boyles. And then I stopped and looked at the production and some of the numbers. And I said, okay, yes, positionally, he's going to have a problem in the NBA. I get that.
He's not even a tweener, bro. Because a tweener, you're in between. You're a position off, right? He's 2 positions off.
Yeah. Ideally, yeah. I mean, he's the, David Roddy.
Yeah. What do you got to say about John Tanji?
Wow. Out of nowhere. Had a fantastic college season.
In this
super productive.
Second best conference?
Yeah. He's probably, what, 28?
Yeah, for 20 points a game, bro.
Yeah. No, he was a very good season. Yeah, okay. It's a flyer.
Is it though? Because he's a known quantity. I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
He was 20.
Yeah, no,
efficiently.
I got you.
At Wisconsin.
I got you.
The other guy I was questioning was Cam Jones and a Marquette. I think he's 6'4". A lot of these guards that are experienced are, 6'1", like a Shed or a Mark Sears. 6'4", and I think this season in particular was his most impressive because he's always been a scorer. But then he's like, I can also average 6 assists a game and only 2 turnovers.
Yeah. Good player.
And I think that's really impressive. His ability to step up as the one, as a true one when his team needed him to, without sacrificing his scoring ability. But that was a guy I thought about including. I don't want to give him a shout out if he's watching this.
Yeah, and if Ryan Kalkbrenner is watching, I too was torn about him here. I just couldn't ignore the fact that everybody seems to have fallen in love with Coward. He's shot up draft boards, and he's now like a 20s guy. Kalkbrenner is a productive 7-footer. Yes, his footwork is somewhere in between
Baby Deer and
Zach Edey and Hunter Dickinson, but effective. Had some big games. Good defender.
And could low-key shoot it a little bit.
Yeah, he's got a clue.
Yeah, my hot take: we're gonna see at least one player that we didn't mention being selected in this first round on Wednesday.
R.J. Lewis?
No, but I do think that we're going to see a guy out of nowhere. I think this is definitely one of those drafts where nobody's got an idea of who's going to get drafted outside of the top 2. Where?
Yeah, I think last year we were legitimately right to criticize the draft because it was.
I think there's a couple guys here that have a case to make where it's like, no, there's talent here. I just think in terms of the order.
Yeah, Ace Bailey probably would have gone 1 last year.
Yeah, I think there's probably three or four guys that would have went 1. I'm just saying I think we're going to see a big surprise on draft night. Not just trade-wise, I think selection-wise. But I know this is a long video. If you guys are still watching, we greatly appreciate it. And I know we each had our own couple hot takes here. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with our opinions. Let us know down in the comments below. And, please give us a like and subscribe if you liked it. And we will see y'all on the next episode.
Remember, amateurish, we're better than no-dos.
Who? Peace.